Hello, I'm so glad that you could join me today for this next installment of the weekly Hip Stitch Academy live classes. I'm each week talking about different topics revolving around teaching sewing classes. And this week's topic is teaching adult sewing classes. Um, just want to make sure. Yeah, we've got sound. Okay. So yeah, this week's is all about teaching adult sewing classes, and I'm doing it because I know of a lot of existing studios that teach a ton of kids classes, but maybe not so many adult classes, and I feel like this is a missed opportunity. So I'm going to get more into that more in a minute, but I wanted to give you a little update on the online course that I've been working on and telling you a little about. It's not about adults sewing classes, it's actually about kids sewing classes. The online video course that launches on February 3rd is called Summer Camp Profit Lab, and it's all about teaching you how you can teach your best sewing summer camp yet. So yes, this is definitely a course for entrepreneurs who have never taught a sewing camp before in their lives, definitely. Teach you, the structure and safety and the curriculum and, all of those things that you don't even know where to begin with. But this is also a course for those of us who've taught sewing camps in the past, but we're looking to sort of up level these camps, make them better, scale them, grow them, and make it literally your most stress-free, fun, profitable summer camp yet, okay? So I split it into 4 very distinct parts, and these 4 sections are going to actually correspond with the calendar as you get ready to launch for June 1st, 2020. I realize not everyone's going to launch on June 1st, 2020, but I feel like that's probably the earliest that anyone's going to launch. So the course is going to get you ready for that launch date. And the first of the 4 sections is planning and scheduling your camp. And that's the section that's going to launch on February 3rd, Monday, February 3rd. You're going to get all the preliminary things you need to get started planning and scheduling your camp and making sure that your camp is visible and able to sign up for. You'll have 3 weeks to then implement all of the things in that first section of the training. Then 3 weeks later, the marketing, selling, and filling your camp launches. And this is the part where you get your butt into gear marketing your camp. Okay, so you're going to spend those 3 next weeks really focusing on the marketing component of your camp. And I actually feel like this is the most important part of having a truly successful camp. So then the third portion of the training will be preparing for your best camp. That's going to launch 3 weeks later. And this is the part of the training where we will focus specifically at hiring, on finding great spaces to hold your camp. And I do say spaces as opposed to space, plural, because that's one of the things that we're really kind of focused on. And then also having an effective training your staff effectively. So making sure that everybody knows what they're doing when camp rolls around. And then the 4th and final section of this training will be facilitating your best camp. We'll focus on curriculum, we'll focus on safety, we'll focus on more of the day-to-day, how to make a really great camp, and how to get people to, kids to keep coming back to camp week after week. Because sometimes not everybody signs up for all the weeks right away. They want to sort of try it out, and then once the kid has a great experience, which they will, they're going to want to sign up for more weeks. So we want to focus on that. And I kind of decided to dole out the sections of the camp because I didn't want to overwhelm anybody with too much at one time. I know sometimes when I take online courses, I feel like it's like trying to get a drink out of like a fire hose. There's just so much information coming at you. You get really overwhelmed with too much information. So I didn't want that to happen. So that's why it's really, you're going to get one chunk, have 3 weeks to facilitate. Get another chunk, have 3 weeks to facilitate. And I'm really excited about how that's going to work. And then on top of just the course, you always have the option for some accountability and some coaching along the way. So there's different tiers when you go and purchase the course. So if you want to find out all about that, it is actually live. You can't actually start it because it doesn't launch till February 3rd, but you can read a little bit more about it and the pricing tiers. That's over on hipstitch.co/summercamp profit lab, all one word. Okay. All right. So let's just get right into this week's live video class. You already know that these are all related to starting, running, and growing your sewing business. And I'm kind of taking the experience that I've had running my own for the last 15 years to then help you with yours. So thank you for tuning in live. Thank you for watching this recording. I really, really appreciate it. And I look forward to these videos each week. And I'm happy that you are here watching. Okay, so in case you haven't seen the upcoming schedule, you can find that at hipstitch.co/video classes. I've got a bunch listed there coming up. I'll be adding a bunch more. If you sign up ahead of time, they're all free. But if you just add your name, you're going to get reminders, because I know sometimes I sign up for things that I really want to attend and then I forget. So if you say, hey, sign me up, you're going to get some reminder emails that this is coming up. But if you can't make it, I post all of the videos on the website, actually on what I call the Sewing Teacher blog. So you can find that at hipstitch.co/blog. All of the past videos that we've done are also there. All right. So we're going to talk about teaching sewing to adults. And I'm talking about this topic because I feel strongly about teaching sewing, not just to kids. I feel like sewing is just such a hobby that all adults can enjoy. Even if you haven't sewn ever before in your life, you are never too old to learn how to sew, right? So I can't tell you how many times I get emails or people reach out and just say, you know what, I need a new hobby in my life. I need something new and exciting that doesn't involve a computer screen, it doesn't involve a phone, it doesn't involve technology. I mean, sewing can be sort of technology related, but not really. They want to learn how to make something with their hands. And sewing is a really fun and unique way to make stuff you can actually use, you can wear, you can use around your house. So there are plenty of adults that are looking for this, and there are not that many places that teach it. So again, I just want to get as many people learning how to sew as possible. So that's why I do this. I was going to say also, people are pretty sick of the state of the fashion industry right now and fast fashion, and how it's really just a shame that it's hard to find clothing that you like, that you wonder like where this stuff is coming from, and you can't really trust that there's not so much harm being done just so you can have a cheap pair of jeans. So yeah, there are plenty of people who feel that way as well. And I think these are people that are turning to learning how to sew. So, that's another reason that I think it's so important to teach adults how to do this wonderful thing that we all know how to do, right? Okay, so I want to just go through the overview of exactly what I'm teaching. First off, I'm going to start with fears that maybe sewing teachers have around teaching adults how to sew, and how you definitely shouldn't let these fears stand in your way from teaching adult sewing classes. Next, I'm going to talk about the reasons why teaching adults can be better than teaching kids. And I'm not saying that I like teaching adults better. I'm just saying there are a few distinct reasons why I like teaching adults over kids. And then finally, I'm going to touch on some marketing methods. We can't talk about doing this without figuring out how we're going to get people to sign up for classes. So, you know, I love to talk about marketing. So I'm definitely going to do that in today's live class as well. So first, let's start with some fear busting around teaching adults how to sew in your sewing business. And fear number one that I actually hear from a lot of people is that people think that they're not a good enough sewer, and so therefore they can't teach adults. They're fine teaching kids, but for some reason they think that teaching adults is going to be that much harder, and somehow people are going to find out the secret that they're not that great at sewing or something ridiculous like that. So yeah, you can clearly see that I think that's a terrible excuse for not teaching adults how to sew, because you don't have to, you know, teach couture bra making, right? You don't have to teach these really difficult technical things, especially when you're first starting, because most people don't have any sewing experience at all. They're literally coming at you straight from 8th grade home ec, then 20 years has passed, and then they want to learn how to do some more, right? So you're probably just going to be doing really basic things like teaching them how to thread their sewing machine, or maybe you're going to teach them how to make a cute bag, or how to hem their pants. All of these things that you, I'm sure, know how to do and could teach others. So don't let that fear stand in your way. And teaching adults how to sew is actually not that different from teaching kids, because you're teaching the same fundamental skills. You're teaching someone how to cut out the pattern, how to cut the fabric, pinning the fabric pieces, sewing it together, and then creating this final project that, you know, turns into something that they can take home. And this is true for no matter what age you're teaching. So again, don't let that be your excuse for not doing this. So fear number two is that, and it's more of like an excuse maybe than a fear, but that adults don't have time to sew. And yes, it is true that some adults do not have time to sew. They're totally overscheduled. They don't have time to do anything except maybe go to work and take care of their family. But that is not everyone. And there are plenty of people out there who have an interest in learning and growing and trying something new. And they're not consumed with maybe taking care of small kids or taking care of their job or climbing the corporate ladder or whatever. They've got some time to try a new hobby, and they're looking for something to take them away from their day job maybe. And some of the stresses that come along with it. I've had so many people tell me that they take sewing as just sort of a form of therapy. You know, they come in, they learn how to do this, and they don't think of anything else. So how can you deprive someone of that? You are meant to do great things, and that is one of them. And maybe you think, well, because you're so busy, you don't have time to learn some new skill because you're running your own business and you're taking care of your kids and you're, just crazy busy all the time. But that's not everybody. Not everybody, overschedules themselves like I do every minute of the day, and they have room for learning something new. All right, so the third fear that I wanted to mention is that adults are too picky and too hard on themselves, therefore I don't want to teach them. And I get that, because yeah, in my experience, that is definitely a true statement. I do find that teaching adults can be really challenging in a way that doesn't come up in kids' sewing classes. Adults expect to be really, really good at new things like the minute they try it. They can't understand why the thing that they're doing isn't perfect immediately. And they forget that learning a new skill requires practice and patience. But that's our job as sewing instructors, to remind the people that we're teaching that that it's going to take time and practice to do all of these things. And we can coach them along the way, um, and let them know that sewing a perfect khaki hem the first time they try it is kind of crazy. Like, it's not going to happen. You're going to have to do it a couple times, and you're going to, practice, and then you'll improve, and then you'll get really good at it. But it's going to require repetition. And we have to tell people that. It's also our job just to teach our adult students to like chill out and believe in themselves and celebrate even the smallest things that they accomplish when they learn how to sew. So I think that that's really like an added bonus of something that we teach when we teach other people how to sew. So just to kind of wrap up these fears, I wanted to touch on these fears because I find that a lot of sewing instructors that I meet and talk to and say that they don't want to teach adult sewing classes have kind of one thing in common, and maybe that's a lack of confidence in what they do. And I don't believe that it's a warranted lack of confidence. I think that people are better than what they think they are. And especially as entrepreneurs, we have to have that little extra boost of confidence in ourselves. I think more so than the regular person. And as much as I kind of hate to say we have to fake it till we make it, in a little way that I think is true. And having that attitude in our day to day, not too much, but a little bit, can be really, really helpful, especially when we're starting out teaching something new or doing something new. It's like having that confidence of, you know what, I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to tell someone when I don't know something, and it's going to all be okay. And there's no like, you have to hide something because, not everybody knows everything. But it shouldn't stop you from trying, right? All right. So let's move on to the pluses of teaching adults versus teaching kids classes. And the first plus that comes to mind for me is I love teaching adults to sew over kids. And one of the reasons is the classes are a lot less rowdy and a bit more organized. And I'm sure you can imagine why. If you have a kids class, it's going to be louder, it's going to be crazier, it's not going to be as like everyone's going to be in their own like place and be very polite. And not to say that kids aren't polite, but it's just a little like more organized chaos in a kids class versus an adult class where things are a little more even and calm and collected. So if temporary chaos bothers you a lot, you might actually be more cut out to teach adult sewing classes than you would kids classes, right? So the second plus that I was going to mention when you are teaching adults how to sew is that the skill level is going to be slightly more advanced, not a ton, but slightly. And if you're a stickler for the sewing rules you grew up with and traditional methods of sewing, teaching adults might be more your speed. If you're like, you can't imagine not sewing or not ironing open every seam after you sew it, or you can't imagine like making sure that seam allowances are exactly the way they should be, these things are not going to happen when you're teaching kids. So if you're like, the thought of that makes you crazy, definitely teaching adults should be your route. And then the third plus for teaching adult classes, I believe, is that for me, it pushes my own skill level. I want to get better. I want to teach classes that I'm not an expert in. If I want to teach a quilting class, I'm not a quilter, and I'll be the first one to admit it, but I can teach a basic modern quilting class. In fact, I'm teaching one tonight. It's the third and final class, and I'm going to get there early, and I've spent a lot of time prepping and getting myself better at quilting so I can teach my students and they can have a really great class. So that's what I love about teaching adults. It forces me to be a better sewer. And I love to sew and I love to get better at sewing. So that's really fun. All right. So the last part of this video today, I'm going to talk about marketing tips for getting signups for these adult sewing classes. And the first thing I want to suggest is that if you are already teaching kids classes, you have an entire market of adults that you can market your adult sewing classes to, right? The moms and dads of the younger students that you're already teaching are also going to want to learn how to sew, especially if they've just purchased a sewing machine for their son and daughter who's already taking your class, right? So utilize this audience that you have right in front of your nose and introduce these adults to these adult sewing classes that you're going to offer. Number 2, build your audience by trying to host some private events and private parties. You know, it's kind of along the same theme as the paint and sip parties. You know, having some sort of private workshop, maybe it's for someone's bridal shower or birthday party or girls' night out, and there's one person who's like, you know what, this would be really, really fun. And then she or he is going out and marketing that idea for you, basically, and is like finding their 10 closest girlfriends and getting them together for a night of purse sewing or whatever it is. So it's a great way to kind of get the word out for your other classes by saying, okay, I'm gonna, you know, and you can make it really, really simple. Say, have like a make your own handbag workshop, girls' night out thing that you advertise on your website. And then people will say, oh, that sounds really fun. We'll bring in wine, we'll bring in food, we'll hang out, make it a simple, simple design. And then everyone's going to learn how to sew. And chances are 2 or 3 of them are going to be like, this is really fun. And I never would have thought of it. And then they're going to be taking your classes later. So that is something I've found has been a great way to market my adult sewing classes. Okay. Number 3 is just marketing your classes in a way that along the same lines as the private event, where you come in, nobody has to bring anything. They don't need a machine. They don't need fabric. They don't need anything. You make it so it's like 2 hours, 3 hours. We're going to sew this project from start to finish. And then you as a teacher, make sure everybody finishes. So don't choose something that's really difficult. And then they get that really like strong feeling of accomplishment when they're done. And then that, you know, makes them coming back for more, because everybody wants that. Everybody wants to sit down, plan something out, and then finish it and take it home with them. Because how many times in our day do we actually do that? I don't know. I feel like with so many things that I do, you feel like you're never quite chipping away and making the difference and finishing something. Whereas in this type of make it and take it workshop, is what we call it at our studio, there's just a satisfaction that comes along with that. So that's been a great way to market adult classes as well. Give them a project, help them start to finish, and then they're done. And then they're signing up for more classes. And then my last marketing tip that has worked well in my studio, but can be a little bit controversial, I think, is the Groupon class. So we've had a Groupon running just all the time for about the last 5 years. It's for literally one class. It's a very, very basic class. And then we also use part of that class to market our other classes in it. Not a lot. We're not, I wish we actually spent more time selling in that class, because it's a great opportunity, but it also feels a little weird. So anyway, we have this class. It's on the Groupon website. There's a constant influx of new people coming into our studio because they see it on Groupon. And not only do they sign up for that particular class, but someone sees it sometimes and then they go, oh, they click over to the website and maybe they don't want that class, but they see our other class list and they decide what other classes they want to take. And they don't even take the Groupon. It's just literally a marketing tool to get this huge audience. This Groupon audience is enormous. And we get a way to get in front of that audience. And it doesn't cost us any money. We don't make a whole lot of money because we have to reduce the price of our existing class. But at the end of the day, if you plan it right, you can still make some money. And, you know, it's this great marketing tool, like I mentioned. So, you know, I encourage people to try it who have it in their area. However, be really, really, really intentional with how you decide what class you're going to offer. It's got to be a class that's very basic, that you can have a lot of people come because you're going to have a lot of sessions because people are going to buy it and then they're going to want to sign up. So you've got to be able to host a lot of people at once. So kind of make the class curriculum that you're doing so that you can have a lot of students, and just, you know, making sure that it's like one thing and then that one thing gets them potentially interested in more things so they continue to be your student. All right. So if you are not already teaching adults and you're considering it, I say please just go for it. Because at the end of the day, most adults do not already know how to sew unless they're a little bit older, maybe in their 70s or 80s. Those people probably learned to sew and sewed for a good portion of their life. But anything younger than that, there's this like weird generational skip. So there's a great business opportunity for you as a teacher. And they're going to want to learn basic things, at least to start. So be willing to help them take their sewing machine out of the box that they got for Christmas that they're scared to like look at and figure out how to use. That's all you have to do. Teach them how to thread their machine. Teach them how to wind a bobbin. It's not crazy difficult. And you know how to do these things. So teach other people. And if you're not sure how to structure just a very, very basic class, check out my adult sewing class curriculum. I've got the sewing machine basics class as a little package you can purchase. You can teach it as many times as you want. And it literally maps out minute by minute in a 2-hour class what to teach. And it's the same structure that we use. I've had a ton of success. I feel like I've taught that class so many times that I've gotten it down to a science. And I've shared it with you on the sewing machine basics. So check that out. All right, so that's about it. That's the end of adult sewing classes. If you have any questions, email me. But if you like this, please let me know. And if you didn't like it, please let me know and tell me why. But I really enjoy doing this and I love hearing from you. And I'd appreciate if you know somebody else that might like these videos to spread the word. I really, really enjoy doing this and I'd love to reach as many people as possible. One of the things you could do is if you're watching this, screenshot it, share it on your social media. I'd be very grateful. So next week's live class is happening on Thursday, January 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to be talking about staying on top of your finances. Fun stuff. Not really, but we've got to do it. And we're going to talk about why that's so important. And that's it. Until next week, I will catch you later.